If they have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll get those slotted to our presenters with some of the rest of the questions in the crowd. We have 2 presentations to get to for an hour today, so we'll kind of be a little bit quick. If you have questions that are really long and rambly, feel free to get hold of the presenters afterwards. The first presentation we have is a collaborative approach to conservation, the Little Plover River Watershed Enhancement Project. This is Carmen Anderson, and she is the village planner for the village of Plover. So we will jump right into it. Carmen, it's all yours.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I'm really happy to be here to talk about the Little Plover River Watershed Enhancement Project. Oh, is that better? Can you hear me? Is everyone good? Good? Still quiet? Oh, okay. Is this better? Okay, good. Okay, so I'll just jump right into it since I feel like I might go over here. But to just start off, so if you're unfamiliar with the Little Plover River, it's about a 5-mile long river. So it's a small river, but it's definitely a very loved river in the area. It's a tributary of the Wisconsin River, and it's about 80 to 90% groundwater fed. So that's going to be really important. It's reliable on having good groundwater supply and recharge, but that's also going to mean that it's pretty vulnerable to the groundwater pumping, which we'll see that it's a pretty good example of what a lot of the areas in the Central Sands region has dealt with in the past. A lot of water bodies being impacted by the groundwater pumping, and the Little Plover River is definitely a good example of that, if not a good poster child for kind of what's gone wrong with it. So a little bit about the backstory. Around the 2005 to 2009 timeframe, the Little Plover River got a little bit of notoriety for having some dry ups in specific sections of the river. This kind of caused a little bit of discourse. There was some butting heads between some various groups, pointing fingers. A lot of people were upset with agriculture and farming, think that's taking up all the water from the river. But there was also a little bit towards the municipality as well for their municipal water system and taking water from a well that's close to the river as well. In 2013, it was designated as an endangered river, which is not a good title to have. So we definitely knew that we couldn't kind of ignore the issue anymore. So that's when we started to take some action towards formulating some solutions. We created a master plan for our conservancy property, which we acquired a few properties in the watershed area to do restoration work and to hold in conservancy. In 2017, this was 2017, 2019 is when a lot of really kind of foundational work started. We had a survey done by the Wisconsin Geological and Natural History Survey. That was a groundwater model, a real state-of-the-art thing that they created for the Little Plover River that gave a really good foundation for what was going on in the watershed, as well as starting to give us some ideas of solutions that we could start to implement. And that is around the same time that the working group for the Watershed Enhancement Project kind of started to come together to take what we learned from these surveys and start to put it into action. And then, it's definitely not a project that is finished in any way. We've done a lot of work out there already, but this is definitely something that's going to be continuing into the future as well. So we had some main things from these surveys that we learned. I mean, obviously, with the wells and the groundwater use, we knew this was a big issue. There's quite a few wells that surround the Little Plover River and the watershed. During the summer months, we could see well over 100 million gallons being pumped from the groundwater, mostly for irrigation, but also municipal uses and residential uses. So this was definitely having a big impact on the watershed. That survey did some simulations to where we can see the present day contributing area for the groundwater and how in its natural state, historically, it's been a lot of a bigger contributing area. So we can see the impact that the wells have been having on the groundwater, and that's obviously going to impact the river and its flows as well, especially during those summer growing months. But this also made us realize kind of the broader issue that we can't just look at it from one perspective. So we can look at it just from the wells, but that's just one situation, that's just one marker of what's going to impact the watershed. We really need to be looking at it from a whole watershed perspective, seeing how the development and the disconstruction drainage tiles has really historically impacted not just with the river, but the entire watershed in general. And so we have a lot of wetland loss and just a pretty disjointed watershed system in general. And so if we want to help the river, we have to look at other approaches besides just handling the groundwater usage. And so with the Watershed Enhancement Project group, we came together and we have three main goals. So increasing the flows and the aquatic health of the river, implementing management projects that improve the health of the watershed in general, and improving and expanding the fish and wildlife habitat and public recreation access. And this was, the bread and butter of this whole project was the community aspect. It was a community-led initiative. It brought together a lot of different groups that have various interests, but they all kind of came together under the same goal of wanting to find solutions for the watershed because we're all users of it, and so we all rely on it. So that was a really big selling point for a lot of people to come together and work on this. So we have a pretty big, a wide array of people. We have, industry, agriculture groups, farmers, landowners, conservationists and hydrologists, community volunteers and students, and local and even state officials have come out to help on this project. So we've had a lot of really great buy-in from the community, as well as being able to get all those various perspectives to really be able to make a good impact. This was over $2 million in investment, so it was definitely a really big undertaking. Obviously, a lot of that came from grants and awards, but we get a good in-kind match from our partners as well. We like to think this is a really easy thing to get behind for a lot of these funding sources, because it really shows that the community is leading the charge for this, and there's the broader picture. We're trying to make something that's sustainable for generations to come, and so it's a pretty good thing to want to get behind. So we're lucky to have a lot of these funding partners that help us be able to accomplish a lot of these goals. And so where a lot of this was taking place was out on our conservancy lands. So the village owns two properties. We have the Dan Mahoney Conservancy site and then the Soik property. And then it's also bounded by the Little Plover River State Fishery Area as well. The Daniel R. Mahoney Conservancy property is 140 acres. We did a lot of habitat restoration out there, as well as some channel improvements. And that's also where we're going to have some planned public access and recreation. And then the Soik property is 59 acres of retired farmland at the headwaters of the river. And that was under the Wisconsin Wetland Conservation Trust. And that works on restoring the hydrology and wetland communities. So revegetation, as well as we filled a lot of drainage ditches out in that area as well, which has made a pretty good difference. So to look at what was actually done out there, we did quite a few things, and it's within not a very long period of time, which goes to show how powerful our collaborative approach has been in getting a lot of voluntary actions for this. We even had industry, Del Monte, a big business in the village. They do a lot of on-site water recycling. We have voluntary efforts on behalf of the farmers and the landowners. They're choosing to voluntarily help monitor their water use. They're practicing rotational grazing and other sustainable practices, updating their equipment. We even had farmers taking the lead to fill in ditches on their own properties. So we had a lot of good farmer support and willingness to voluntarily take action in this project. We weren't forcing them into doing anything. This was something that we opened up the conversation to all these different groups, and they were willing to come and help out and support us and give us their knowledge of the land and their practices. And that was pretty invaluable for the whole project as a whole. The village as well has done a lot to help with our water efficiency, updating our leak detection technology. We rotate the pumping between our 3 wells in the village. So, during summer months, we're not going to pump in the well that's closer to the river. We're going to take it to the 2 that are farther away to help with impacts on the Little Plover River and the watershed. We filled well over 5,000 feet of ditches, and there's definitely more to come on that frontage. Retired a lot of farmland. We decommissioned a well, as well as reduced pumping in nearby wells. And so we've seen a lot of good improved groundwater infiltration. We're saving groundwater. We're saving money with water efficiency. We're returning flows to the headwaters of the river and increasing those summer low flows, which are going to be helpful in hopefully not having any more dry ups in the river, especially during those summer growing months. We did a lot of clearing, channel narrowing, stream bank improvements. We established wetlands, over hundreds of acres of habitat restoration. So definitely a big improvement out there. We were able to narrow the channel from 35 feet in some areas to 6 feet, which is its historic width, and deepen the channel from 1 feet to 3 feet. We definitely seen improved trout numbers out there as well. It is a class 1 trout stream, so it's important to have that habitat where they can thrive. So we have seen improved trout numbers and just being able to attract wildlife to the area in general. And those floodplain connections are really important. So this work has definitely been able to reconnect the floodplain and make it a functioning watershed area. We also have kind of a living laboratory out there for University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. Their students kind of use it as an outdoor classroom. They have a whole management plan for what they do out there. So they've done a lot of good work, and we're lucky to have their involvement as well. But going back to the kind of voluntary and community-led approach, we've had over 200 hours of volunteer work put out there, a lot of it driven by just community members that have wanted to support this project. They use it as a recreational benefit. So this was something that, is going to benefit them as well. They see the purpose in it. And it also helps them become more connected to the place. And so when people are exposed to these issues, they want to come out and help create solutions, and they become more attached to the area, and they plant their own roots, and they want to help support it for the future. So it's good to have community members out there leading the charge, because it allows generations to also want to follow in their footsteps, and it creates a constant stream of support for keeping these things going. So it was good to have the community out there, having farmers doing those voluntary actions. We even had state officials out there helping us with some of these projects. So there was a lot of different people that came together to actually get their hands dirty and do some of this work with us. And then I just have a few pictures of kind of the process of some of the work. So we did some prescribed burns out on the soil property, obviously filled in a lot of ditches, berm creation, and then some photos of what the landscapes kind of look out there now more recently. So we have a lot of nice acres of prairie with all that habitat restoration. You can see in this one, this was kind of when the woods were cleared, but you can see the difference between the stream channel widths. We have the ditch filling, then obviously attracting wildlife back to the area. So it's been nice to see kind of how the place has not just been beautified, but it's actually providing for our environment, and therefore providing for us as well. And then just to kind of give an example of where we want to take it in the future. This is a concept plan that we have for our conservancy properties. So we want to have that public recreational aspect to really be able to get the public out there and be able to appreciate it and use it, because this conservancy property is open to the public, but it's just not very accessible to be able to get out there. There's no good place for someone to come in and park. It's just kind of a little bit messy out there. So we definitely want to get some access points in there, some nice places to maybe have a picnic, and then trails that kind of interweave throughout the whole property. Be good for wildlife viewing, birding, whatever you want to do out there. We want to keep it minimal to kind of lessen the disturbance. We also just want to have the emphasis be on the natural area. So it doesn't need much. It just needs to be a place where people can get out there and actually walk and see all the improvements that have been done and be able to enjoy the natural area. And so that is really a pretty brief overview. You really could talk about this for a long time. There's a lot that's been done out there. It could probably take hours to get through all of it. But just a little brief history of where we've been from having all of that discourse over the water drying up and what are we going to do about it to seeing the actual actions that we've been able to take to improve the river and the watershed, and really keying in on the collaborative effort. There's a lot of different approaches that we could have taken, but we chose this because we think it was a good way to get people involved without having to feel like they're being pushed into anything, opening up those conversations, seeing what the goals are of the different various groups and finding those commonalities. And that was really able to get us a lot of voluntary participation, which was very great, especially being able to get the farmers and the landowners in that area to have their knowledge. I mean, some of them have been farming here for over 100 years, so they know the land really well. We were able to really use their knowledge in finding ways to make the biggest impact on the land. So that's pretty much all I have for that. If you want to go on our village webpage, we have a whole page dedicated to this project. There's a really great 7-part video series by the Wisconsin Wetland Association about this project. They're great videos. You can hear a lot from the people that were integral to this project. And I encourage you to get out and walk the property. I mean, it is open to the public, but also to just learn more because this was definitely a very good project that got a lot of good recognition for, I think, a reason. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I have there.
Comments here before we can transition in the next, or before we need to transition in the next presentation. If anybody has any few questions for Carmen, we'll take them. I will ask you to speak it in the mic so our virtual folks can hear us. And then Erin, if we have any questions online, let me know and we will ask them as well.
This does look like an amazing project, and I can see all the end results and all the groups that are involved, but you kind of skipped over the how any of that happened.
Okay, so like the process of getting it to where we're implementing. Yeah.
Whose fault is it to have all this collaboration, but you, I can't, how did you get to that point?
Yeah, so I mean, the first part was kind of seeing the issue, right? So we had those surveys done. We were able to see the issues. And then it kind of just started by kind of opening up those conversations. So we had to go out to landowners. We had to go out to farmers. We had to bring the issues to them and then see how they could participate and help us. So coming up with a lot of solutions or ideas by all these groups that, you know, also were speaking out about the issue. So kind of sitting down, having those conversations, and then taking it from there to actually starting to implement them. So going for grants and getting those fundings secured. And then we can actually get out there and have those work days where we start implementing the solutions that we got now that we have the funds and we have the support and the backing. And then we can actually get out there and do the work.
Someone obviously had to apply for grants and be in charge and.
Yeah, and the village took a lot of the lead on it. We kind of were the ones that initiated the whole, you know, needing to do something. So, so I would say the village took the lead, but definitely every member in this group had a good role to play in it. So the village took a lot of, you know, administrative lead, but the technical lead was kind of on conservationist groups and hydrologists and, knowledge of the land and figuring out what to, wells to decommission and things like that were on the farmers and the landowners. But the village kind of provide a nice, foundation for people to come to us with these issues, and then we can take it out.
And can I just, I'm sorry, I'm hogging them, but I'm sure everyone has these same questions. So the surveys that were done, what format or how did that, were these surveys that went to people and stakeholders, or were these like physical land surveys? I didn't quite get that.
Physical land surveys. So
Okay.
they were done by professional organizations that did out there and did the science and then put together a report for us with a lot of different data modeling and things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Aaron, do we have any questions from our virtual audience?
Awesome job. Thank you. Thank you.
I will also echo awesome job. Anybody else? We got a few more minutes here. Ooh, I gotta figure out how to get over here.
Thank you very, thanks. So I see that you're the town planner. So this isn't your main job, right? Like, I'm just curious, like how much
Yeah.
time you get to spend on this, because I'm sure you have other responsibilities.
Yeah, and actually, I've only been working with the village for about a year. So I wasn't even here when this started. Obviously, it was all the way back to 2005, really. But so I've gotten the privilege and the opportunity to learn from a lot of different people that have been a part of it. So that's where I've kind of gained a lot of my knowledge. But going forward, I obviously will be working with getting the recreation out there as well. So it's kind of picking it up where it left off. But yeah, it's definitely not my main job. I do a lot of different things in the village, but I'm definitely very happy to be a part of being able to work on this project in whatever way that I can. But yeah, not my main thing. I haven't even been doing it for that long, but definitely a good thing to be a part of.
Any other questions? Oh, wait, 1 second, Eric. You were second.
Sorry, Eric. Very interesting and well explained. So this project was not producer-led. This was led by
Yeah, I mean,
how you explained it.
we had producers be a part of the, collaborative process.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it was initiated by the village. It was kind of,
Okay.
I guess, spearheaded by them, but they
Okay.
were definitely a part of, giving us information and being a part. So like they weren't polarized from the situation because
Okay.
they're definitely a part of the solution.
Mhm.
They're a water user. So
Mhm.
they were involved, but, they weren't the main person kind of leading the charge for most of it.
Thank you.
My question is also about kind of how things shifted or what made things change. And I wonder if you can go back to the slide that had sort of the detailed budget information that showed sort of on one side that one right there. So if I look at this, I'm like, okay, $2.6 million and 1.4 from the DNR. What was the $1.4 million for? Like, what did that actually go to?
So from the Wisconsin DNR, the wetland conservation. So that's pretty much all centered towards our soy property. That was part of the Wisconsin Wetlands Conservation Trust. So the soy property. No, I don't believe it was to buy, or was it? I mean, Josh has helped us with this, and I was not here for this, so I might not know the answer.
Just real quick, yeah, that I coordinate the Wisconsin Wetland Conservation Trust from the DNR, and yeah, it was for land acquisition as well as restoration, and then it's a wetland mitigation project. So we also had like 5 years of maintenance and monitoring, so hence the high budget there.
So convenient to have you in the room with us. And who happens to be our next presenter. So we will use that as a transition point. Again, after this next talk, I think we have about a 15-minute transition period. So if you have any lingering questions, feel free to come back and get a hold of her, and we will see what we can do to answer questions. All right, excellent. Thank you again.